Taking protein powder, not a good idea. Your sugar levels go up, your insulin production as well, and it increases protein synthesis, risk of cancer, and decreases autophagy.
What I would suggest is that you throw away your current multivitamin and get a multivitamin that is a methylated multivitamin.
That fasting breaks down muscle.
Depends on how long you're in a fast, but it will appear as if your muscle is shrinking. It makes it more lean, but if you follow that up with good eating, you're going to make yourself stronger.
So what's the big problem with high protein diets?
Everybody thinks that a high protein diet is something that is good, but nobody realized that high protein also means high fat.
You've heard about the dangers of seed oils. I agree, but here's the lesson. Fish oil is worse.
All right, we're back for another one of these special episodes where we take clips from the internet and have our nutrition and fitness expert, Neal Spruce, react to them. Okay, so as always, your host, Zane Spruce, co-host, Neal Spruce, and we'll get into it.
Taking protein powder, not a good idea. Not a good idea. Cut it out. We did it. We all did it. I did it for a while. You will notice your sugar levels go up, your insulin production as well, and it's got a lot of glucose in it, and it will cause IGF-1 levels to go up, and it increases protein synthesis, risk of cancer, and decreases autophagy. Now, I just told you that autophagy is so important, and yet this thing turns it off. Don't do protein bars, for goodness sake. You don't need it. And nature doesn't give you protein on its own. It gives it to you in the form of meat. You want some protein? Go and eat the meat. You want some protein? Go eat the chicken or the fish. And make sure it's nice and lean and not fed on corn, because then you'll get too much omega-6 as well. So there you go.
Wow, there's a lot there, huh? Yeah. Protein, not a good idea. Well, it depends on who he's talking to, right? I mean, let's face it. Without protein powder, I would easily argue that you're not going to reach your 1 gram per pound of lean body mass of protein need daily. First of all, you'd have to hire a cook, a part-time cook to make your meals for you. Cost you a fortune in a grocery store to get that much protein and then cook it, make all your meals the night before. So obviously that's a protein powder for convenience and economically helps you get there. Now, what he's saying about protein powder, it's got glucose where you can buy protein without any carbs in it. Okay, I mean, so he's talking maybe about some kind of cheap protein that's loaded like, some of these things like, what's it called that they Ensure, these things they're really inexpensive protein that's in a shake, a powder, they're high in carbohydrates also. So maybe he's talking about something like that. He talks about driving insulin. Everything drives insulin. Amino acids as protein does, period, by itself. Everything does that. And he's talking about, well, then it causes this, and autophagy, which is, the cleanup of, some bad cells. You want to get rid of those things. He's talking about it causes that. He's just it
blocks autophagy.
Yeah, right, exactly, which is a good thing. Autophagy is a good thing. It does cleans up some of the bad stuff. But what he's saying is like complete out of context. Let's put protein powders in context. Protein powders is something that should be probably in everybody's pantry that wants to remain active the rest of their lives. Without that 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, you're not going to be able to be active the rest of your life. And so many people just don't get that, and evenly dispersed throughout the day. So it's so easy to get a good protein powder. We're not talking about a lousy one. We're not talking about some fat slob taking a bunch of protein powders around this stuff or eating nutrition bars, and all this. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about a good protein powder, like a whey isolate or just a good whey concentrate. It can have as many carbs as you want. Without protein powders, our athletes couldn't carb load and they can't protein load. When they get before and after workouts and so forth, our NBA guys, our NFL guys, these guys all use protein powders, before they get on the field to make sure they have enough energy to get through. So if you're an athlete, I mean, they obviously wouldn't listen to this guy. And this guy, looking at him, obviously not an athlete. So, these are things that protein powders have a place. Convenience, economics, being able to make sure you get the right amount of protein daily, because it doesn't take any time to cook a protein powder. And you can add whatever you want to it. You can just get a plain old amino acid formula that's, basically protein. And you can add whatever fruit. You can use it for smoothies. I tell you, when you were growing up, I couldn't get you and Nelson to eat any fruits and vegetables unless I mixed them in a protein powder, So you've got your veggies and real ones. I mean, they're all ground up in there and everything else. So smoothies, it's a great delivery system for things. Yeah. So this guy's really confused, and he's talking to a sick group of people. You know what I mean? People that just might be diseased or on their way to being diseased. Or they don't move.
I mean, he brought up the whole thing of, he said it can cause cancer. It's like...
Yeah. Protein powder can cause cancer? Well, look at all the people dying of cancer from protein powders around you.
Yeah.
Never heard of that. That's a brand new one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would maybe only come from the fact that if it had like a lot of heavy metals or something in it, but if you just get one that's third-party tested, you don't.
Yeah, you can't. They can't pass a certain threshold.
Yeah,
you can't pass it through. If that's what he's referring to,
I mean, I'm just trying to give him some rope on why he would say something like that. You know?
I think got to remember, a protein powder is something you might use once a day.
Yeah.
How's that going to cause cancer? I'll tell you what will cause cancer: a fatty beef.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm telling you, right? He said, go eat beef. Okay, well, that's okay, too. I like beef. I like lean beef, chicken, fish.
He did say lean meats.
I know. Okay, he did.
He did say lean
good.
meats.
Well, good for him. I'm glad on that whole part.
But, I mean, I just don't get where you would say...
protein powder causes that. I mean, again, how much of your diet daily is going to be from protein powder? Even our athletes that eat 5,000 calories a day, it's no more than 500 to 1,000 calories at the most.
I mean...
But it's supplying 50 or 60, 70, 80 grams of protein for them.
I mean, what is there? Is there... Forget about it being one part of your day. What if it was all part of your day? What mechanism in there it would be causing cancer?
Oh, no, none.
That's
yeah,
what I'm
right.
saying.
I mean, you just wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah,
It's like
you
wouldn't want to eat beef as the only source of protein your entire day, too.
Right.
I mean, everything, too much of anything is good. We always talk about moderation. Even in good foods, it's got to be in moderation because you still challenge your metabolism when you get too much of one thing, no matter what it is, no matter what it's like. So anyway, obviously, hopefully he's got no more than 3 or 4 followers, maybe family members or something, because, somebody should definitely delete that part of it. Maybe he's got some other great stuff I've never listened to this guy he talks about, but that is one thing that's absolutely been fact-checked and not true.
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't cause cancer. It doesn't have everything causes cancer at some point, right?
Well,
you get it, but it certainly wouldn't be a protein powder.
Yeah. Well, this clip, this one itself has 12,500 likes. I mean, and then there's other ones with other tens of thousands. So I mean, there's people
maybe they're
buying into it.
Maybe they're protein powder haters for some reason.
Because it causes
protein powders have a very, very important place in modern society, and when it comes to meeting protein requirements, and when it comes to people that want to remain active, it has a very, very important. And you can buy them as clean as you want. Like, all of our companies, all of our practitioners, they use all natural whey proteins, all natural plant proteins, great powders to supplement the diet to make sure people get enough protein.
All right.
There.
And now we got our guy here again, another appearance. He'll probably make an appearance on every one of these episodes. Gary Brecka about multivitamin.
What I would suggest is that you throw away your current multivitamin and get a multivitamin that is a methylated multivitamin. Specifically look for that term. What this means is that manufacturer will have taken those vitamins and already converted them for you. So they'll convert the folic acid into the methylfolate. They'll give you the pyridoxal 5-phosphate form of certain B vitamins. And the vitamins that are methylated in that form are the most bioavailable and can solve a lot of these issues. The second thing I would do if you're not getting adequate sun is I would take 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 every day with 80 micrograms of K2. Don't take a D3 supplement that doesn't have K2. Take a D3 with K2. The third thing is I would look for a very specific name on the back of your labels. It is called cyanocobalamin. It is a cyanide-based form of B12. Yes, we make B12 from hydrogen cyanide. There are 4 forms of B12 in the world: hydroxy, methyl, and adenosylcobalamin that occur naturally in nature. There's one that we make in a laboratory. It's in supplements, it's in Flintstone vitamins, it's in energy drinks, and it's called cyanocobalamin. This cyanide-based form of B12 causes not only B12 deficiency, but it wreaks cellular havoc and exacerbates anxiety. If you have anxiety, get folic acid out of your life. Look for foods that are either fortified or enriched, which means they are sprayed with folic acid, and get those foods out of your diet.
So, I mean, the main reason I want to pull this up is because, as you know, we're big advocates on taking a multivitamin.
And I'm glad he is too.
And he is too,
Yeah.
but it is always a methylated multivitamin. And I mean, at one point I even was looking up methylated multivitamins. Such things do not exist.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not looking up methylated multivitamin and you're getting a fully methylated multivitamin.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I even dug into his own product. He has 2 things in there that are methylated.
Exactly. That's the only 2 you get in the world: B12 and
so
folate.
I mean, like what
You know,
when you hear, and then we obviously
not a
promote
pharmacist.
taking a multivitamin all the time, and so then a lot of our viewers come in and ask about like, what is your view on methylated multivitamins? And now I'm being like, there's only 2 or what
vitamins
2 or
that can
3
be methylated
that can be
that you can put into a
commercially
multivitamin.
Yeah,
and that's folate,
So-
which is like a B6, and then you got your B12, and the correct the methylated methylcobalamin and methylfolate. Those are what we have in our vitamins too. So those are already methylated, and that's what you want. But what he was when he goes to the paradoxal 5-phosphate, I mean, what he's saying, he just skips over that. And when he's talking, it's got to be methylated. Look for that word. Well, you're only going to see it twice if it's a legitimate multivitamin. Otherwise, it's a liar. It has to be. It's going to be impossible to do that. So what he's saying, though, the things should be prepared already so your body doesn't have to prepare it. When you take in a elemental folic acid, you take in elemental B12 or something, your body has to convert it to something it can use. And there's many different forms of different vitamins, okay? Like your vitamin E's, tocopherols. I mean, you've got about 6 different types of tocopherols. Your body will convert vitamin E from your foods to the one it needs in the most important place in the body and triage the rest of it. So so bottom line is what he's saying is that a multivitamin should have the right forms of each one in there, so that was already done before it was put in the multi, so your body doesn't have to convert it. Yeah. And that's a little bit overblown because the body does a pretty good job of converting whatever form comes in. It'll decide where it's got to go and do it. But at the same time, we do it. We make sure all the forms are already converted, and methylfolate is one of them. And then a B12 would be the other methyl one. So that's that part there. But let's go to the K2 thing.
Yeah,
or no,
so that's extra. I wanted to just point out the multivitamin thing because I know all the viewers ask about like that because this clips has just been recycled.
Yeah, and he should come back on and talk to his viewers because we just fact checked him and he's incorrect if you take that literally. I don't think he meant to say it like that.
I mean, I took it literally. I'm online looking at methylated multivitamins. You can't find a single thing. It's
every
like
pharmacist, any of our scientists that work in our labs, and they would just laugh at that and they go, "Is this guy serious?" Because they know you can only put in. There's only the 2 of them that you can methylate before you put them in a multi. Anyway, so and the other ones you don't because they could actually cause harm. So. Let's make sure we get him straightened out on that. So sorry, Gary, that you got to fix that one on. Get that clip done. What do you want to go next on?
So let's talk about. He was saying about taking the 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 and then how you have to take it with K2.
Yeah. So the only
but
I'll tell you. I mean, the only thing that I don't like, and I know we've said this on our health thing about vitamins and minerals, what are the most important supplements first? It's always a multivitamin that has vitamin K1 and K2. And I will tell you right now, we were the first company ever to put K2 in anything. Our calcium product has K2 and K1, and so does our multivitamin does. So we're very careful. So there's no way you should be taking a vitamin D tablet, capsule, anything by itself if you're not taking the rest of the vitamins that your body, the known underconsumed vitamin. There's about 20 known underconsumed vitamins when you're eating a good diet.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to make sure your multi's got all of those covered. And vitamin D would be in your multi. Now, most people need more vitamin D, so all good. Buy a separate vitamin D. But if you so if you were taking our multivitamin and you needed more vitamin D than the 1,000 IUs, which is 25 micrograms, okay? Then the reason our vitamin D makes sure we're very clear that it does not contain K2. Because if you put K2 in there and you're taking a multi, wow, you went over the upper limit, even though there's a number there because K2, too much vitamin K causes bleeding. So you got to be very careful on how much. So in his case, if you're just taking that, yes, you probably want K2 in there. But you need all the other vitamins too. Yeah. So never, ever Everyone listen to me now. Do not take vitamin D without taking a complete multivitamin mineral that has vitamin D, and then you can add vitamin D. But don't get a vitamin D that has K2 in it if you're taking a multi that's got K2. That's going to be a problem. You're going to end there. And same, we have to be very careful when you're mixing supplements. You've got to look for matching ingredients so they don't cross over. Everything's got an upper limit where too much is bad. Yeah. Okay, and too little is bad. So everything's got a place there. And when you mix supplements, people don't know what those numbers are.
Yeah, no, there's so many
we put it in a computer so we all know.
I mean, there's so many people that watch these videos and just go out and click buy a single vitamin. And then they might be taking a multivitamin.
That's got it.
You're out here buying the max dosages and all that stuff.
Yeah. So we'll give them credit. They're saying, vitamin D2, vitamin K2 in there. If you're only taking that, so you can get your vitamin D levels. What about the rest of the stuff, though? Nothing works in a vacuum. They're all synergistic. But I mean,
that's the problem with these types of videos is that, or not these videos, it's these
clips.
People. Yeah. No, it's these people really that are out here promoting it. Like Gary's kind of like a known charlatan. He has his hardcore followers, but I think everyone outside of that knows that he's not legit. And so
I think most
the problem is he's spinning in truths with the bullshit.
I think everyone does that when you're talking about selling something. They'll spin in. I mean, you look at these, so you can make a study look like it actually worked for something and with some subpopulation or something. So a lot of guys will do that. But I mean, again, this is something that you got to be careful about when you're talking like this.
And like I said, you can go look at his own multivitamin. There's 2 methylated things in that thing. So I mean,
cracks me. He has his own multivitamin.
It was through like another company or something that he said he formulated. So
yeah, I mean, all of our practitioners, they're hip to all of those kind of stuff. So
yeah. So all right, on to the next. This one here we got on. I think it's fasting and maybe its impact on muscle.
There's been a school of thought that fasting breaks down muscle. That I'll lose muscle if I fast.
Yeah.
True or false?
So it appears to break down muscle. It depends on how long you're in a fast, but it will appear as if your muscle is shrinking because it's getting rid of the stored sugar. But when you now bring in a high protein meal and feed it amino acids, it will grow stronger. You'll see more definition because it broke the sugar down, which you don't want in there. So it changes the shape of the muscle.
Makes it more lean, I guess?
It makes it more lean, but if you follow that up with good eating, you're going to make yourself stronger. Now, the person who decides to go into a fast, breaks down muscle, and doesn't follow up with good eating, you're going to end up with less muscle. But if you follow it up with a lot of protein and you build that mTOR back up, now you're actually able to build your muscle even stronger. There's 2 ways to build muscle. One is through weights, lifting weights, strength training, and the other is through food, protein. So all fasting's doing is leaning it out.
All fasting, how long's a fast though? Everybody fasts when you stop eating. And what I'm trying to figure out where they're going with this. Okay, so just so the audience knows, what we call the post-absorptive state of a human being is 4 hours after a meal. That means it takes that long, breaks it down all into individual parts, goes into the body, and now it is absorbed. Now, at 4 hours, everyone now is going into a release, and the nutrients are now being spun out to be able to see. The human body is just like an amazing organism. Now it's being spun out and releasing nutrients. So you're releasing glucose to keep you alive, right? From your glycogen stores, liver's producing that because you've got to have it. Fat stores for energy and so forth. This is at the 4 hour mark. I don't care if you're 1,000 pounds or 100-pound, 150-pound shredded person or 1,000-pound morbidly obese person. Everyone is at 4 hours, you now become catabolic. And you start dumping amino acids because they are necessary to keep other body parts replacing their tissues. Now, stay with me for a minute. So when you would be in a catabolic state all the way until your next meal, which would include protein, okay? Mm-hmm. You're catabolic. Remember that. Your body's just dumping out stuff, taking tissue apart to keep all the things working in your body. That's how you can live without food for a long time. But what happens if you never eat? You stay in the fasting state, of course, you die. Yeah. Right? Because their body keeps dumping everything out. Now it's got nothing to live, and it can't do that anymore. So I don't know how long she's talking about fasting. Is there a time she's...
There's been a school of thought that fasting breaks down muscle, that I'll lose muscle if I fast.
Yeah.
True or false?
Okay, stop there.
It appears to break down muscle.
It does break down muscle fasting if past the 4-hour mark, right? In other words, you stop eating, okay, and then at 4 hours, your body goes into a catabolic state. That's your fasting. That's what break fast means, right? Break the fast. Yeah. Your last meal was at 8 o'clock at night. You get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but at midnight, your body went into a fasting state, and you are catabolic until your next meal. And that's why we always tell everybody, break the fast first thing in the morning with protein, because you're already dumping amino acids out at this particular point. So then she says something about sugar.
Well, that's what makes me feel like she's talking about maybe for doing some sort of like water fast or something for a couple days, because you're appearing to be like, you don't really appear to be smaller overnight, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you wouldn't see it in the mirror.
So I think that's what she's kind of referring to, is like a few days or something like that. And now you're looking depleted, right? Because you haven't introduced anything,
and all the glycogen stores are gone. Yeah, those were the things that you've dumped out of your muscle.
I think it's talking about a few days.
A long time fasting. Wow. Yeah, so because she's obviously, what is she? Is she like
maybe a doctor?
Really? She's really.
I mean,
she doesn't know anything about
not a doctor.
Muscle,
not. We gotta be careful how we call people doctors. I guess is like I think she has a PhD in nutrition or something.
A doctor of something.
Yeah.
Give me a doctor of psychology or something.
Not like a practitioner.
Yeah, she's not. She's definitely. She's confused, or she's just not saying it right. Maybe she really knows something. But again, if you're fasting for like a day or so, there's no reason the human body is built to where it can run. We're what we call periodic eaters. For millions of years, you would go days without food. So your body's got to be able to store it and then release it to keep you alive while you're going on your next hunt, while you're going on your next thing. So, again, fasting is something that you don't need to do for any reason. If she promoting it from a health standpoint?
Dr. Mindy Pelz. New York Times and international best-selling author.
Of what? What is she best-selling about?
Fasting and hormone expert.
Fasting and hormone. And maybe the hormone thing, I didn't hear her talk about that, but fasting? I mean, what if you're saying...
There's been a school of thought that fasting breaks down muscle, that I'll lose muscle if I fast. Yeah. True or false?
So it appears to break down muscle. It depends on how long you're in a fast, but it will appear as if your muscle is shrinking because it's getting rid of the stored sugar. But when you now bring in a high protein meal and feed it amino acids, it will grow stronger. You'll see more definition because it broke the sugar down, which you don't want in there. So it changes the shape.
Yeah. I mean, if you go into a fast, what do I say? It starts dumping everything out. Yeah. So your glycogen stores, that's what the glucose is, right? Chains in there, polymer. It starts dumping that out to keep your blood glucose normal and be able to move your muscles and everything else because you're not bringing anything in. You're not bringing any protein, so your body's dumping protein because all your organs need protein to replace their cells constantly. So you break the fast with a meal, and she said that. She said, okay, yes, you will appear to break down muscle. Well, of course you break. After 4 hours, you're breaking down muscle.
Right, I know,
Write it down.
I think this is in the context. She's not talking about fasting after 4 hours or after 8 hours even. She's talking about a day or two.
A day or two, yeah.
You're not building muscle doing that.
There's no point. I mean, if you're, first of all, obviously you can't be an athlete, so that's one there. But if you were just a regular person and you didn't work out, and you wanted to fast for some reason because it made you feel good, do whatever you want.
But your muscle's going to come back stronger after.
No, it'll actually come back weaker.
That's what she said, though.
Yeah. Oh, I missed that part. It'll come back stronger. Yeah. Well, let me tell you. So
there's been a school of thought that fasting breaks down muscle, that I'll lose muscle if I fast. Yeah. True or false?
So it appears to break down muscle. It depends on how long you're in a fast, but it will appear as if your muscle is shrinking because it's getting rid of the stored sugar. But when you now bring in a high protein meal and feed it amino acids, it will grow stronger. You'll see more definition because it broke the sugar down, which you don't want in there. So it changes the shape of the muscle.
Makes it more lean, I guess?
It makes it more lean, but if you follow that up with good eating, you're going to make yourself stronger.
Okay, stop there.
Now
it makes it more lean. I mean, it changes the shape of the muscle.
After 4 hours and you just worked out, this is all good and fine, right?
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
I think this is after a couple days.
Okay, yeah. So that's, you've lost the muscle, and now you just eat, and the muscle all comes back. That's what she's saying, I think. And it comes back looking better
And stronger.
and stronger. Okay, well, she's, obviously it must be probably, some kind of smoke before she said that, because that's ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense at all. And the more what are you going to do it again? I mean, you fast. I mean, certainly it's going to recover some of the muscle that you lost when you put the amino acids back in. Right. But that also depends on how much you're moving. I mean, if you're not moving much and you're really tired after this, you're going to lose muscle, and it's not all going to come back because now you got it, unless you're going to start weight training, and so forth. So, I mean, you got to start weight training. You're going to get your protein in, on a regular basis. Every day you should have the right amount of protein. We know millions of studies have proven that if you want to increase muscle and certainly maintain it in aging. Yeah. But when you fast like this, you continually fast for long periods of time, obviously you're going to be shrinking, at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I've fasted for 16 hours once and ate a high protein meal and whatnot after, and that was like probably the weakest I've ever felt.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I mean,
there's no question about that. I mean, again, there's some people that I know that enjoy fasting, and I don't put them down on it, but I don't think you want to work out while you're fasting. That's for sure, because then you're going to break down the muscle 10 times faster and maybe not get it back. All of it back.
And not a fasted workdown, fasting.
No, for sure.
We're talking about like where you're day or 2 or 3. Some people do
that's
a week.
That makes no sense. Again, that just makes no sense at all.
Yeah. And we got one here about eating high protein.
So what's the big problem with high protein diets?
Everybody thinks that a high protein diet is something that is good, but nobody realized that high protein also means high fat. Every time you have a high protein diet, you have a high fat diet. It's unavoidable. And now people will say, oh, I only eat chicken breast and it's super high in protein and low in fat. No, chicken breast is high in fat. As soon as your diet is high in fat, it's not good for your liver. Every time your liver has to produce lots of bile to disperse the fat cells. And the liver is already overburdened with toxic heavy metals, pathogens, petroleum, chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, antibiotics, pharmaceuticals. So many things that the liver needs to neutralize every day. And you overburden your liver even more and more and more with these fats and stopping the cleansing process of your liver. Therefore, everybody that is on high protein and high fat diet, of course, you can be healthy on a high protein, high fat diet. I'm not denying that. But sooner or later, your liver is going to be maxed out. And there will be a point where you gain weight because of it, where you get skin problems, where you get fatigue, because your liver is not able to neutralize the toxins and the pathogens that are in your body. And when you don't realize that a high protein diet is not the pinnacle of a healthy diet, then you're still gonna be in that vicious cycle of not getting better.
Okay, so let's start with a high protein diet and defining it.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to start somewhere there. So what's he referring to? Again, is it anything above the RDA? And the RDA, everyone knows, is a joke. There's not a scientist on the planet that believes that the protein RDA makes any sense anymore. And certainly the older you get, the more protein you need. And we do know it's about 1 gram per pound of lean body mass daily, protein. So if he's considering that a high protein diet, then don't listen to him. And it doesn't have to be high in fat. I mean, you can even get beef, like flank steak, that's very, very low in fat. And some of the fats, by the way, that are in beef and so are actually good for you. Some, even though it's a little bit of saturated, there's some saturated fats that are good for you. The other thing there he's talking about is that, again, you can get a protein powder that has 0 fat in it. All protein, whey protein, 0 fat. You can get plant proteins, 0 fat. Okay, when you mix peas and all the different proteins. So he's confused. I think he's talking about just, proteins. People that eat high protein diets that are not cognizant of their health, they're eating McDonald's, burgers, fatty burgers. They're eating bacon. High, you can call that high in protein, high in fat, right? Yeah. Really bad for you. Lots of it regularly. Once in a while is fine. Yeah. A little bit here and there once in a while, not going to hurt anybody, especially active people. If you're overweight, then no, you shouldn't be, but that's probably one of the reasons you are. You're eating fatty proteins. Yeah. So that's, now, one thing we also have learned, that higher protein, because back in the old days, Zane, people you say, oh, a high protein diet is any above the RDA, you're going to wear out your kidneys and your liver. We've been proving that wrong 1,000 times. In fact, the regular RDA, your bones get weak as you get older, your muscles just start fading away. You've got to double it and sometimes triple it the older you get. So again, he's definitely mistaken all the way around, and you should, without a doubt, unfollow this person.
Yeah, I mean, there's this thing on the internet called rage baiting, and so basically you're just throwing stuff out there to make people go up in a frenzy.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this definitely qualifies.
Oh,
for
absolutely. Because it's like
this isn't even like trolling anymore. It's just like straight like rage baiting. Where it's like you're trying to get people to like just like lose their.
And the other thing is, if he's going to talk, like, he's got to define what is a high protein diet.
Right.
You got to define that. Okay. If you're talking about that's all you eat all day, like those carnivore diet, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Those things.
Those are high fat, high protein.
That's what I mean. There are some issues there that are going to catch up, and maybe. If he qualified it that way, then, maybe we wouldn't have a conversation. But in the meantime, don't listen to what he's saying here. High protein does not mean high fat. High protein does not mean high fat.
Yeah.
That's a bad choice of foods.
Yeah. But I mean, but I mean, just to appease his conversation a little bit, does the liver take a toll with protein intake?
Not a healthy liver, not a normal liver. It's not going to cause any problems. If you have, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or you have cirrhosis of the liver, alcoholic driven, or you've drugs or anything else, your liver's weak, then you definitely want to keep your protein down. That's a fact. Everyone knows that. Your organs, your kidneys, if they're weak, then you want to keep your protein down.
Or monitor.
Monitor it regularly. And that's it. And again, we've also realized that those people, when they bring their protein up a little bit more than the old recommendation, it used to be low recommendations for protein if you had kidney disease and things. Yeah. Now they found a happy medium that's actually more. That help the recipient, these people on dialysis will actually live a little longer. So that's a whole nother world. Yeah. If we're talking about healthy subjects here, the healthy livers, and there's nothing there that's going to cause a problem. But if you've got a problem, then there's things you got to stay away from, just like anything else.
Right.
But I'm glad you brought that up.
All right. This guy is like fear-mongering final boss.
Final boss?
Yeah, like when you play a video game, you make it through the levels, and then there's the final boss. He's like the hardest one to defeat. This guy is like the final boss of fear-mongering. All right? So this is...
You've heard about the dangers of seed oils. I agree. In processed food, all seed oil is bad. Why? Because it's fragile. But here's the lesson. Fish oil is worse. So everyone's attacking seed oils, which could be good, but fish oils are so fragile, they're never good. Quick lesson. Omega-3 fats, ALA. Most of the ALA is from plants and seeds. Most of it mainly. You can find it in meat. There's 3 double bonds. Here's the first lesson. The more double bonds there are in a fat, the more fragile it is. That's all you have to know. I don't want to overcomplicate the science. Omega-3 also breaks down into 2 types of fish oil, the EPA and the DHA. Double bonds, 5 in the EPA, which is found in fish oil, in 6 double bonds in DHA. Compare that to seed oils, which typically has 3 in the omega-6 linoleic acid. So there's more double bonds in fish oil than seed oils, meaning it's more fragile. Listen, it goes rancid the moment it even hits your mouth. Nobody should ingest fish oil. That's not my opinion. Look at all the studies on it. The studies show the stuff's fragile and it causes oxidation and damage.
Okay. So the studies showed quite the opposite, that fish oil and supplementation is very healthy for you. In fact, they've even shown supplementation to even be as good, if not better, than just some of the fish because of the mercury in fish and some of these things. So he is totally smoking crack. There was no question he's going somewhere else. Hey, listen, anything can get rancid and toxic when you're extracting oil from a fish and you're putting it. But if you look at all your top manufacturers of omega-3 fatty acids, with the DHA and the EPA, which we need, and it's totally underconsumed in the U.S., real problem. Yeah. So you definitely want to get it from fatty fish. Salmon or your sardines. Most people don't want to eat that kind of stuff. Mackerel. Okay, so a lot of fish people don't like to eat, except other than the salmon. You can get omega-3s, good ones from there. And the fact that it gets toxic before it gets in your mouth, God, look at all these people that are dying from these fish when they eat fish, healthy fish. I mean, obviously, he's just total fear-mongering here. when you have all your manufacturers that actually do it, like, with the one we use up in Alaska and Bering Strait up there, they get the fish immediately extracted and it goes into containers. So there's no toxicity. And you can measure the toxicity. You can measure it everywhere in an omega-3 thing, and you can publish it to show that there is no rancidity, no toxic stuff. So he is just being quite funny. I mean, I think it's just like he's being a comedian here.
I don't know. I think he had some sort of health scare or something in the past, and he became like a total like hypochondriac. But I mean, he says all this shit, and then he drives a car. He has Wi-Fi in his house. He has like this is all the stuff that he tries to like tell you got to be careful of. Yeah, like you can't use laundry detergent. You can't But
the fact is, just look at all the studies. Yeah, look at all the studies. Yeah. All you're going to see is that it's good for you. That omega-3s are very good for you. Eating, whether you get it from fish or you add on a supplement to get it. And the supplements are all certified. They're certified clean. Yeah. You can't cheat the system. Especially when they're NSF certified, they go through all of that toxicity stuff. So yeah, in fact, they're probably more protected than fish. And
then there's all those studies that show like the higher omega-3 index, the lower mortality.
Exactly,
right?
And the healthier, the better cardiovascular shape.
I don't know if they're saying that's from not even supplementing fish, but
no,
fish oils. But I mean,
the omega-3, it tells you how much DHA and EPA are like in your erythrocytes, your blood cells. And when we see that, that's why the more you have in there, the slipperier they are, the better everything flows, everything. And EPA and DHA, they're what we call resolvers. They resolve the inflammation phases of all parts of our body. There's constant inflammation going on in your body because it has to. As it repairs things, you get sick, inflammation starts, you get all that stuff there. But the problem is you get too much inflammation. When you get an injury, too much, right? Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why we compress and put some ice there to kind of get the inflammation out, because eating good tissue. And what EPA and DHA, and the reason we have so many problems with people's immune systems and they get sick and they end up on ventilators, because the over-inflammation takes place. They can't control it because they don't get enough EPA, DHA. That's not all. There's other things too, but that's a big part of it. Yeah. They're what we call resolvins. They resolve the inflammation phase that is necessary to clean things out, and then it resolves it and it gets back to normal very quick. So you get over these things very quickly without having to go on a ventilator and stuff.
So he's basically just saying it does the exact opposite.
I know, isn't that amazing? I know. It really is. So I guess you're right. I mean, so I guess, to your point, what do you call that? They're baiting people to.
Yeah, well, the first guy, the guy right before, I think was like rage baiting. But yeah, this guy's dead serious when he says.
You think so?
I mean, I don't know. You said you knew a guy back in the day who used to spew a bunch of bullshit, and he didn't believe any of it.
He didn't believe any of it. Yeah, he did that on purpose, and then when he died, he got exposed. And then I'm just saying, it's like that's how you make a living. Yeah. So they'll just do it, and then you can want to follow them around and see if they're really doing that, like that Liver King guy.
Right. So
it's just so funny. All these, it really is all the way around. But I guess that's it. I mean, it's part of the internet. In my world, Zane, as you know, we have, hundreds of thousands of practitioners, and they go all through the right schools. So they're giving all their clients and members of our gyms all the right information, the right stuff. They make sure they guide them right. So everything's fact checked, and those are all the real deal. But they have to deal with this every day now. Ever since the internet come out with these influencers out there, I don't know if you guys know what if the audience out here knows what they're doing in Europe. They're telling these guys they can't do it anymore. They're knocking down the nutrition influencers because my famous saying about them. Listen, I love influencers for all kinds of other stuff. Selling cars, whatever else, clothing and kind of cool stuff. I mean, neat stuff. I mean, it's great because and there's so many good ones out there for other stuff. But when it comes to nutrition
and health,
I mean, the majority of these influencers, and I'm not talking about scientists that are out there, but influencers, nutrition influencers. They are people that know nothing about nutrition, selling nutrition to people who know nothing about nutrition. Yeah, and that's the crime. And they're batting down this. They're holding this down up in Europe right now. They're holding them accountable. So you're seeing all kinds of issues getting fact checked before they can publish this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting people getting. The carnival culture is like so strong on the internet, and like the people that have had favorable results are like the loudest voices. Yeah, but you can find just as many horror stories as you see positive stories with the carnivore diet. Yeah, they're just like suppressed, or they don't speak out about it, because they're not fanatics about it.
Correct.
But like, there's just as many people that have bad experiences with carnivore as they have good. So it's like,
well, just
it's
remember this
crazy.
also, that if you're on it for 20 years, you've had a bad experience.
Yeah.
Because something bad, if you're on a real one, I guess that's just meat.
No,
right?
you
And
hear
high
people
fat.
all the time saying like they've never been so sick. They've never their skin's never been so bad. They're like everything, you know?
And again, there's people with great genetics that can handle that for a while, but it's going to be, if you're just eating meat and fatty meat at that, I mean, you are going to have some serious health problems down the road. The vast majority of people will. So the good news is that they won't stay on it that long, but all these diets are cyclic.
Yeah.
They'll come back after,
But I mean, that's just, it's just people spewing things that they don't really even know what the hell they're talking about, and getting people hooked onto things that like usually don't end up favorable for them, so.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, the loudest voice is the one that gets heard. So,
I mean, I guess it's good entertainment, but I think I would really try to get everybody to understand it is entertainment, and fact checking it. I mean, we do that for millions and millions of people, members of our clubs and gyms. And all the other people that surround it, we fact check it for all of them. And they do. They just write in and then we just check it for them. And no, yes, no. To this day in science, the thing about nutrition, Zane, is it's a very fast evolving discipline. And, we're learning more and more regularly. But there are things that are very clearly wrong, and there are things that are very clearly right. Yeah. The stuff in the middle, we're still sorting out. But in the meantime, let's just do what we know here. And the thing, everything in moderation. People start worrying about little things like, like anything, like, oh, should I have artificial sweeteners? Should I have this? I mean, come on. Really? A little bit of anything. I had a Diet Coke today. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, there's little things like this. It just doesn't, it's in the context of the person doing it, and and all those kind of, how much do you actually do daily, So again, there's some real common sense there. We've seen the old saying, common sense just isn't that common.
Yeah. And to wrap up that video, yes, fish oils are very clearly right.
Yes, correct.
So,
very clearly right.
You brought.
And good for you. Just get the right amount. Yeah.
That's what we got for today.
Yep.
Hope you enjoyed the episode,
Yep.
and we'll be back with more. Don't forget, take your multivitamin.
Yep.
Bye. Methylated.
Yep.